All right, good morning, all of you. Ciao. So we have finished off with a beautiful topic called as respiration, and now we go into the opposite process called as photosynthesis. Respiration में हमने क्या किया? ग्लूकोज को तोड़ा और उसमें से एटीपी बनाए. Breaking of glucose is called as a catabolic process. So breaking of glucose was a catabolic process. In photosynthesis, using sunlight, plants produce glucose. Production of glucose is an anabolic process. So फोटोसिंथेसिस में सनलाइट को कन्वर्ट करके ग्लूकोज बनाया जाता है. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अ एनाबॉलिक प्रोसेस. और रेस्पिरेशन में ग्लूकोज को तोड़ के उसमें से एनर्जी बनाई जाती है. दैट इज अ कैटाबॉलिक प्रोसेस. मोर स्पेसिफिकली इन फोटोसिंथेसिस, सनलाइट will first become ATP, and ATP will then become glucose, and that is photosynthesis. Sunlight becomes ATP, ATP becomes glucose, which is an anabolic process. In respiration, glucose is broken down into ATP, and ATP breaks down to form mechanical energy, electrical energy. So it is a catabolic process. So photosynthesis में glucose बनाया जाता है anabolic, respiration में glucose तोड़ा जाता है catabolic. दोनों में common क्या है? ATP. Sunlight से पहले ATP बनता है, एटीपी से ग्लूकोज बनता है. दैट इज एनाबॉलिक. एंड रेस्पिरेशन में ग्लूकोज से पहले एटीपी बनता है, एटीपी से मैकेनिकल और इलेक्ट्रिकल एनर्जी फॉर आवर मसल मूवमेंट, ब्रेन न्यूरॉन्स इंपल्सेस, उसमें कैटाबॉलिज्म होता है. सो फोटोसिंथेसिस, ग्लूकोज इज फॉर्म्ड, इट इज एनाबॉलिक. रेस्पिरेशन, ग्लूकोज इज ब्रोकन डाउन, इट इज कैटाबॉलिक. Let's see what photosynthesis is about. Photosynthesis is actually defined as an intracellular biochemical anabolic process. So it takes place within the cell. Photosynthesis कौन से सेल में होता है? लीफ के सेल में. Leaf के cell में, you all have heard of it, leaf cells which are called as mesophyll cell, and mesophyll cell have in them chloroplasts, and photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast in mesophyll cells, and it is an anabolic process in which glucose is produced. And it's an anabolic process in which all green plants using chloroplast and a pigment called as chlorophyll. ये स्कूल से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं. Mesophyll cell have in them chloroplast. Chloroplast have in them a pigment called chlorophyll, and all leaves, green plants, prepare organic food like glucose from simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water. तो लीफ के अंडर सरफेस पे होते हैं small openings, which we all have heard of it, are called as stomata. And stomata open and air enters inside the leaf. Air के अंदर होता है carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide along with water, with the help of sunlight, produce glucose, and with the help of chlorophyll and sunlight, and they release oxygen as a byproduct. So what does happen, sir? Stomata खुलता है, अंदर carbon dioxide जाता है, along with it there is water, and CO2 plus water using sunlight and chlorophyll pigment produce glucose and release oxygen as a byproduct. So let's see that chemically. Sir, CO2 along with H2O in the presence of light and chlorophyll produce C6H12O6. CO2 along with H2O, carbon dioxide and water along with the presence of light and chlorophyll produce glucose, and oxygen is released as a byproduct. So what is photosynthesis essentially? CO2 plus H2O using sunlight and the pigment called as chlorophyll produce glucose and release oxygen as a byproduct. This is exactly the opposite of respiration. Respiration was C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gave you 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. और यहां उल्टा हो रहा है. This was respiration. Photosynthesis is ulta. Respiration was glucose with oxygen, C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gave you 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. And energy was released, catabolic. This is opposite of it. 6CO2 plus 12H2O does not release energy. It uses solar energy. So solar energy is used up. And solar energy पहले बनता है ATP और ATP से बनता है ग्लूकोज, and glucose के साथ 6O2 and 6 molecules of water are released. So sir, what is the chemical reaction? 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of light and chlorophyll gives you C6H12O6 plus 6H2O plus 6O2. This is photosynthesis. Now, many of you will begin to wonder, ये कैसा chemical reaction है? 6CO2 plus 12H2O produces glucose plus 6O2 plus 6H2O. तो सर, अगर यहाँ 6H2O 12H2O यूज हो रहा है, 12H2O यूज हो रहा है, and 6H2O produce हो रहा है, then why don't we write the reaction as 6CO2 plus, just a second, yeah, why don't we write the reaction as 6CO2 plus 6H2O gives you C6H12O6 plus 6O2. तो 12H2O में से 6H2O निकाल दो तो डायरेक्टली 6H2O यूज कर सकते हो. नहीं, बट ऐसा नहीं होता है, क्योंकि होता क्या है, ध्यान से सुनना. 12H2O in the presence of light breaks down to form 24 hydrogen and 12 oxygen atoms. And 12 oxygen atoms get converted into 6 oxygen molecules which are released. तो ग्रीन प्लांट्स में से जो ऑक्सीजन रिलीज होता है, जो हम लोग ब्रीथ कर रहे हैं, वही ऑक्सीजन कहां से आता है? बाय द ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ वाटर. 12H2O break down to form 24 hydrogen and 12 oxygen, and 12 oxygen atoms will form 6 oxygen molecules which are released. तो बचा क्या? As 12 oxygen atoms form 6 oxygen molecules, वो तो रिलीज हो जाएगा. बच्चा 24 हाइड्रोजन्स, एंड 24 हाइड्रोजन उसका क्या होगा? 24 हाइड्रोजन में से 12 हाइड्रोजन, 24 में से 12 हाइड्रोजन कंबाइन विथ 6 O2, 6 CO2. 6 CO2 में कार्बन कितने हैं? 6 कार्बन and 12 oxygen. 6 carbon and 12 oxygen, that is 6 O2. तो 24 हाइड्रोजन में से 12 हाइड्रोजन combined with 6 carbon and 6 oxygen. तो 24 हाइड्रोजन में से 12 हाइड्रोजन combined with 6 carbon and 6 oxygen. So what will 12 hydrogen plus 6 carbon plus 6 oxygen form? It will form C6H12O6, glucose. So all the carbons have been utilized to form glucose. And of the 24 hydrogen, 12 hydrogen have been used to form glucose. And of the 12 oxygen, 6 oxygen has been used to form glucose. तो बचा क्या? बचा 24 हाइड्रोजन में से 12 तो ग्लूकोज के लिए चले गए, and 12 hydrogens were left. 12 hydrogens are left, and of the 12 oxygens, 6 oxygen तो ग्लूकोज के लिए चले गए. So 12 minus 6, 6 oxygens are left, and 6 oxygens combined with 12 hydrogen to form 6 molecules of water, and 6 molecules of water are produced. So this is the reason he 12H2O eventually forms 6H2O. क्योंकि ध्यान से सुनना ये, where did all the oxygen released come from? Water molecule splits in the presence of light, and 12 oxygen atoms combine to form 6 oxygen molecules which are released as free air. And 24 hydrogen में से 12 hydrogens combined with 6 carbon and of the 12 oxygen. So how many oxygens we have? 6 carbon and 12 oxygen. And what is water broken down to form? 24 hydrogen and 12 oxygen. 12 oxygen atoms has combined to form 6 oxygen molecules, and 24 hydrogen में से 12 hydrogen combined with 6 carbons and 6 oxygens, and 6 carbon and 6 oxygen with 12 hydrogen form C6H12O6, that is glucose. And 24 में से 12 hydrogen was used for forming glucose, and remaining 12 hydrogens combined with 6 oxygens. 6 तो ऑक्सीजन ग्लूकोज में चले गए, 6 ऑक्सीजन जो बचे combined with 12 hydrogen, and 12 hydrogen plus 6 oxygen combined to form 6H2O, and that is the way the chemical reaction is balanced. So, neat point of view. Where does the oxygen from the, where does free molecular oxygen come from? Where does free molecular oxygen come from? It comes from breakdown of water. It comes from breakdown of water. Where does the oxygen in the glucose come from? Oxygen in the glucose comes from carbon dioxide. Oxygen in the glucose comes from carbon dioxide. Of the 12 oxygens, 6 oxygens are used in glucose. And where does the oxygen in the water come from? Oxygen in the water again comes from carbon dioxide. कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड में से वो 6 ऑक्सीजन आते हैं which form 6H2O. So once again, where does free molecular oxygen come from? From the splitting of water into 24H and 12 oxygen atoms. 12 oxygen atoms form 6 oxygen molecules released as free gas. Where does oxygen in the glucose come from? From 6 carbon and 12 oxygen. 6 oxygens combined with 6 carbon and 12 hydrogen to form C6H12O6. So oxygen in the glucose comes from carbon dioxide. And ये 12 ऑक्सीजन में से 6 ऑक्सीजन तो ग्लूकोज के लिए चले गए, बचे 6 ऑक्सीजन. What did 6 oxygens combine with 12 hydrogen to form 6H2O? So where does the oxygen in the water come from? Oxygen in the water comes from carbon dioxide. So where does free molecular oxygen come from? Water. Where does oxygen in the glucose come from? Carbon dioxide. And where does oxygen of the water come from? Carbon dioxide. Beautiful logic. Sir, photosynthesis is a redox reaction in which water is oxidized. Hydrogen is removed to release oxygen. तो फोटोसिंथेसिस में वाटर ऑक्सीडाइज होता है, उसमें से हाइड्रोजन निकल जाता है. वाटर ऑक्सीडाइज होता है, उसमें से 24 हाइड्रोजन निकल जाते हैं और बचता कौन है? 12 ऑक्सीजन. What is giving away hydrogen called as? Giving away hydrogen is called as oxidized. Giving away hydrogen is called as oxidized. Taking in hydrogen is called reduction. Giving away hydrogen is called oxidized. So water में से 12H2O में से 24 हाइड्रोजन निकाल दिए जाते हैं और बचता कौन है? 12 oxygen atom, which will become glucose, which will become free oxygen and is released. So water is getting oxidized and carbon dioxide is getting reduced. Hydrogen is added to it to form glucose. तो ये है 6CO2, उसके अंदर 24 हाइड्रोजन में से 12 हाइड्रोजन 6 कार्बन के साथ ऐड करके क्या बनता है? ग्लूकोज. So what does carbon accept? 6 carbon accepts 12 hydrogen. What is accepting hydrogen called as? Reduction. Accepting hydrogen is called as reduction. So 6CO2 accepts 12 hydrogen to now become C6H12O6. So CO2 by accepting hydrogen gets reduced to become C6H12O6. So water by giving away hydrogen gets oxidized. Water by giving away hydrogen gets oxidized. So who gets oxidized? water, and carbon dioxide, by accepting hydrogen, gets reduced. So who gets reduced? Carbon dioxide. So water is oxidized and carbon dioxide is reduced. What is a simultaneous oxidation reduction reaction called as? Redox reaction. A simultaneous oxidation reduction reaction is called as redox reaction. And what is the significance of photosynthesis? Light energy, solar energy, is converted into chemical energy and stored in the form of carbohydrate as food, while oxygen is liberated as a byproduct. तो फोटोसिंथेसिस सुपर प्रोसेस है. कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जो एनवायरनमेंट में बहुत ज्यादा है, जिससे पोल्यूशन होता है, प्लांट्स कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड को खींच लेते हैं और सोलार एनर्जी को ट्रैप करके कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का यूजफुल ग्लूकोज बना देते हैं, विच प्रोवाइड्स अस विद एनर्जी. और वाटर मॉलिक्यूल को स्प्लिट करके उसका हाइड्रोजन यूज होता है ग्लूकोज बनाने के लिए, और उसका ऑक्सीजन यूज होता है as free molecular oxygen, which will reduce pollution and help us for our process of respiration. So plants are absolutely amazing. This planet would have not survived without plants. We humans, because of vehicles, because of respiration, because of factories, are increasing the carbon footprint and leading to global warming. And what are plants doing? Plants are taking in carbon dioxide and along with sunlight converting it into useful glucose. तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड हवा में कम हो जाता है और ग्लूकोज बन जाता है, जो हमारे एनर्जी के लिए जरूरी है, और हम लोग ग्लूकोज खा सकते हैं. एंड व्हाट डू प्लांट्स आल्सो डू? नॉट ओनली दे रिड्यूस कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, they split down water and release oxygen, which is used by all of us for our process of respiration. What amazing plants are! कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिड्यूस करते हैं और ऑक्सीजन लेवल बढ़ा देते हैं. So plants are an absolute must if we have to save planet Earth. Photosynthesis is the only way global warming will be prevented. Photosynthesis is the only way by which our planet can be saved, because plants will use up carbon dioxide and reduce global warming. And advantage, it will produce food, it will break water, it will release oxygen, CO2 कम हो जाएगा, oxygen ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, and the temperature of the earth will decrease. So only way to prevent global warming is photosynthesis. Organisms capable of synthesizing complex food material from simple ones using an external source of energy are called as autotrophs or producers. So any organism which is capable of synthesizing glucose or any complex food from simple ones using an external source of energy are called as autotrophs or producer. कोई भी प्लांट या बैक्टीरिया अगर खुद का खाना बना रहा है, then they are called as autotrophs. We animals cannot produce our own food. We depend on plants and we are called as heterotrophs. Plants, because they make their own food, are called autotrophs or producers. As a matter of fact, autotrophs or producers are of two types. You have photoautotrophs and you have chemoautotrophs. So plants do photosynthesis and prokaryotes make food by chemosynthesis. So plants will do photoautotrophs will do photosynthesis and they make food from sunlight. So they are photosynthetic. And bacteria, many of them are chemoautotrophs. They produce energy not from sunlight. Plants produce it from sunlight, so they are called photoautotrophs or photosynthesis karte hain. Chemoautotrophs produce energy by breakdown of chemicals और ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ केमिकल से उनमें से एनर्जी ऑब्टेन करते हैं एंड आर प्रोड्यूसिंग देयर ओन फूड but not from sunlight but by breakdown of chemicals, hence they are called as chemoautotrophs. So we have photoautotrophs, kingdom plantae, and then we have protists like diatoms. Arif sir will teach you very soon in biological classification. Unicellular organisms are called as monerans. And then you have multicellular, जिसके अंदर you have different classifications. So sir will teach you about this. At the moment, just memorize it. Kingdom plantae, all plants. Protists like diatoms. And then you have prokaryotes like cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria, if you have heard of it, these are blue-green algae. Blue-green algae are called as cyanobacteria. They also have in them chlorophyll. Chlorophyll होता है blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Hai bacteria, but they are chlorophyll containing bacteria. So they will do photosynthesis. And then you have purple sulfur bacteria, for example, chromatium. Purple sulfur bacteria. They also have chlorophyll. And you have green sulfur bacteria, for example, chlorobium. They use solar energy to produce their own food and are called as autotrophs or photoautotrophs. So we have plants, we have protists like diatoms, we have prokaryotes, unicellular bacteria like cyanobacteria, which are blue-green algae, which have chlorophyll in them, purple sulfur bacteria like chromatium, green sulfur bacteria like chlorobium. They use solar energy to produce their own food and are called as autotrophs or photoautotrophs. And then we have these plants having photosynthetic pigments. And the most common photosynthetic pigment, you all have heard of it, is called as chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is the photosynthetic pigment जिससे photosynthesis किया जाता है. And green plants produce their own food using sunlight. And how much sunlight is used? Only 0.2% of the total sunlight falling on earth is used by plants for photosynthesis. Only 0.2%. Can you imagine कि plants using only 0.2% of sunlight can do so much photosynthesis? It can support billions and billions of animals which are dependent for glucose using only 0.2%. इतनी solar energy available है अर्थ पे. Majority 99% तो reflect हो जाती है. If we develop solar generators and solar operated batteries, how much amount of solar energy can be used by all of us? a radical transformation rather than using petrol or diesel or coal, which is giving out so much carbon dioxide and causing global warming. Can you imagine how much we can use solar energy? कि अगर इतना सारा फोटोसिंथेसिस हो रहा है दुनिया में, इतने प्लांट्स है, पूरी दुनिया को खाना खिलाते हैं प्लांट्स, and only 0.2% of sunlight is used by plants. Then imagine what we can do with 99% of the sunlight that is reflected back. How much solar energy can be made, and we can make the earth a much better place to live. Zero pollution from solar energy. And by the way, photosynthesis, marine algae do 90% of the photosynthesis on earth. Algae से photosynthesis होता है 90%. Logical बात है 70% of the earth's surface is covered by water. Only 30% is land. और water में the only photosynthesis done is by algae. So algae जो ocean beds में होता है वो photosynthesis 90% करते हैं, which means all the plants on earth, land पे जितने भी plants है, all the trees, all your jawar, bajra, maize, rice, cereals, pulses, they constitute only 10% of photosynthesis. Only 10%. 90% तो algae में होता है जो हम लोग खाते भी नहीं है. Only 10% is photosynthesis done on land. और उसमें सनलाइट कितनी यूज होती है? Only 0.2%. Can you imagine the abundance of solar energy available? Amazing. And आने वाले समय में हम लोग देखेंगे more and more green energy will be available. We will depend more on solar energy, wind energy. ये सब future है. And let's see how this reduces global warming. Then we have chemoautotrophs, prokaryotes, unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, bacterias, that is prokaryotes, do production of food by chemosynthesis. Chemosynthesis होता है, and chemosynthesis के अंदर they use energy released during chemical reactions for synthesizing food. There are no pigments. So phototrophs में there were photosynthetic pigments like chlorophyll, and chemoautotrophs में there all the energy comes from chemical reactions. उसमें कोई pigments नहीं होता है. So which are the chemoautotrophs? These are prokaryotes like bacteria, unicellular. For example, you have nitrifying bacteria, nitrosomonas, जो नाइट्रोजन डाइऑक्साइड को ब्रेक करता है. You have sulfur bacteria, thiobacillus, जो हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड को ब्रेक करता है. And you have iron bacteria like ferrobacillus. So you have nitrifying bacteria like nitrosomonas, you have sulfur bacteria like thiobacillus, and you have iron bacteria like ferrobacillus. ये chemicals को तोड़ते हैं. Say nitrifying bacteria नाइट्रोजन डाइऑक्साइड और नाइट्रोजन के ऑक्साइड्स को ब्रेक करके उसमें से एनर्जी रिलीज करता है. एंड वी विल टेक अ नाइस एग्जांपल, सल्फर बैक्टीरिया. सल्फर बैक्टीरिया हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड को ब्रेक करता है. हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड में सल्फर और दो हाइड्रोजन एटम्स के बीच में एनर्जी होती है, बॉन्ड एनर्जी, हाइड्रोजन सल्फर बॉन्ड एनर्जी, एंड 2H2S इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, ऑक्सीजन यूज किया जाता है, and it will break down 2H2S into 2S. So 2H2S will become 2H2 and 2S. और उसके बीच की जो बॉन्ड एनर्जी थी वो बॉन्ड एनर्जी ब्रेक करके the bacteria derives that energy and it will form sulfur and water. So what will 2H2S become? 2H2S will become 4H and 2 sulfur, and O2 will become O2 will become 2O. So 4H plus 2O will now become 2H2, and जितनी भी energy थी that energy of 2H2S, ये H, S और H, so this is H2S, उसकी जो bond energy थी that bond energy is broken and is available by the sulfur bacteria. So sir, which is better, photosynthesis या chemosynthesis? Sir, photosynthesis में ऑक्सीजन लिबरेट किया जाता है and amount of energy trapped is very high. एक ग्लूकोज में 686 किलो कैलोरी ट्रैप हो जाती है एंड O2 रिलीज किया जाता है. कीमोसिंथेसिस में जब हाइड्रोजन सल्फाइड ब्रेक होता है एनर्जी रिलीज्ड इज लेस, और वो एनर्जी सिर्फ बैक्टीरिया को काम आती है, हमें वो एनर्जी काम ही नहीं आ सकती है. एंड कीमोसिंथेसिस इज अ बैड प्रोसेस क्योंकि उसमें ऑक्सीजन यूज किया जाता है. तो ऑक्सीजन प्रोड्यूस नहीं होता है, ऑक्सीजन यूज होता है. सो कीमोसिंथेसिस is only good for bacteria for their survival. बाकी we heterotrophs, we depend on plants for food in the form of glucose. We depend on plants for oxygen that is released during photosynthesis, and nowadays we depend on plants for reducing carbon dioxide level, which reduces global warming. So this is the logic of photosynthesis. Chaliye, we'll take a break and we go into a very nice portion further ahead.